Boom. We're live. Perfect. Box to box, episode number 5. Recording on Labor Day. If I'm talking a little bit slower, it's been a long week, long weekend. I'm sure I'm not the only one out there enjoying it this weekend. But look, excited to be here, excited to talk footy, life here in the States when it comes to everything around this game. I'm joined by two of my good friends, Andre, Alina, aka ggSK. Guys, Labor Day weekend, long weekend, I think, for most people. I know Alina's got school stuff going on. Andre, how's
Unfortunately.
Labor? Andre, how's Labor Day in Mexico, bro? You're all over the place right now.
It's been crazy, man. It's. I think we were talking offline. Been traveling a lot this summer. It's been fun, but I'm ready to go home back to Seattle. I've been in Mexico for almost a week now, so different background today. But I'll be back home. Can't wait to get back to the swing of things, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Alina, how are you spending a holiday day doing a shit ton of homework? It sounds awful.
Man, I mean, who wouldn't want to spend their holiday doing homework? Am I right?
Instead of
Best thing
being in
to do.
Mexico drinking margaritas, I
Yeah,
agree with you.
yeah. Who would want that? No. Yeah, my both of my classes started this last week. Both of them are online, but one of them is like I have to be in like Zoom meetings and stuff like that. The other one I just have to like
Mm.
do on my own time. So it feels like it's double the work because I still have to do like an equal amount of work for not being actually in class face to face with the professor. So I going into it, I thought it was going to be a little lighter, but I was wrong, and that's pretty much my weekend: is reading, and assignments, and stressing over future homework and future assignments. So
Back to school.
Oh man,
yeah,
September, we're in full effect in
yep.
prime form. Yeah, I don't miss college almost for that reason. It's like, holy shit, I have work to do and everybody's out doing other cool stuff. But look, we're talking footy. Hopefully, this gives you a little bit of respite and break from all the schoolwork.
oh
And look, we
yeah.
got a lot to talk about today. I think we're going to jump right into some transfer day fallout. The deadline day just passed. We're recording this on the 5th, which means that we're about a few days past the craziness that was the transfer deadline day. We made more than a few predictions. I think I was wrong on more than a few. But you know what else is fucking new at the start of this season? I'm wrong. I think there's a lot to go through on that front, but equally, we just passed a massive kind of Derby Day weekend across the board, European wise. We're going to talk about that as well. And look, going to tease a little bit on our first guest coming up for our next episode, Christian XC. We'll talk about it. We'll get some more information around it towards the end of the show. But to kick things off, let's jump right in. Transfer deadline day fallout. A lot happened. Me personally, I was tuned into Fabrizio Romano's deadline day show. Crazy shit. I think there's so much money spent this transfer window. It felt a little bit different. It felt more lucrative, right? Like we were just so much fucking money thrown around, especially in the Prem. So let's start there. Chelsea, in my opinion, had the most just eventful deadline day. Came all the way down to the very end, and I think that they tried their hardest to fill the gaps that we talked about in our previous episode. I think they addressed them in a pretty decent way. But first and foremost, before we jump into those two kind of last minute signings, right before the deadline day, they confirmed Wesley Fofana from Leicester City. Big Phil at center back, gonna kind of be that tandem duo with Koulibaly. I think that's a pretty big signing. A lot of money spent, and they quickly followed that up with Aubameyang from Barca, Zakaria from Juve. Let's talk before we jump into Alba. Let's start with Zakaria. I thought this one came out of fucking left field.
Left
I
field,
think that
yeah.
there was nothing on this. You know, we got our in-house Juve and Serie A expert Alina. I don't think she even saw this coming out, and really in the way that it did. But let's start from Juve's perspective first, Alina. Are they going to miss Zakaria that much?
There were like three midfielders on the chopping block. It was Artur, Zakaria, Rabia, pretty much all of Juve's midfield, really. But I really wanted McKinney out, and I'm a little split. I don't know how to feel about this because Zakaria came in. I think he came in this year in January. He came in the winter
Hmm.
transfer market of last season,
Yeah.
and he was injured shortly after he came in. He was injured for like maybe like 3 or 4 weeks. So I feel like we only had a very limited number of games with him to see what he can do. And in terms of Juve and the Serie A, a lot of people struggle in their first season, in their full like first season. So I would have liked to see what he would have done if he stayed, and that's why I'm kind of, I'm not too excited about that because I believed in him. I wanted him to get more time. I know it's a loan, and he might come back, but I
He's a
wanted that
good
to be
player.
McKinney.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I think it's interesting. Like there I saw more rumors about Weston and McKinney moving
exactly.
on than I ever saw about Zachary. I just thought that like I hadn't even seen enough of him at Juve for me to have an impression. I thought
Mhm.
in Germany he looked really good, and should have been that stopgap for Juve. Pairing him with Locatelli should have worked really well, but we never really got to see too much of it. Yeah, I don't know, Andre. I mean, do you think, considering the limited sample size we've seen at Juve, is he going to make any kind of dent in that midfield with Chelsea?
Dude, I don't know. We talked about it last week, right? How the center of the park without Conte looked a little bit off. Jorginho plays at one speed. Hopefully, Zakaria can stay healthy, and that's the thing. It's like I'm with you too, man. Like we didn't see enough of him. I followed him in the
Yeah.
Bundesliga, followed him in the national team. He's a fantastic player, but he just didn't get to play enough. But yeah, it came out of left field. And then the Aubameyang one is really interesting, man. Like we talked about it too, going to the arch rival, right? Like how do you feel as an Arsenal fan? Like truly,
Bro,
without
I mean,
how it all went
truly,
down.
like in all honesty, he scored, like I said before, scored 90 plus goals for
Yeah,
Arsenal. I think it's like
he
right
was
now,
the captain of the club, though. Like you know what
yeah,
I mean?
yeah, but he also got stripped, right? So like, you can't
Sure.
like talk about that without that being part of the conversation.
Yeah.
I think, as someone who is a very adamant Arsenal fan, it part of me, I can't lie, bro. Part of me, it does suck. It's like it's shitty to see him playing for one of our biggest rivals, considering all he contributed to the club. I don't feel any of that from a Barca perspective. It's like, if anything, good for him. I think, he came in 6 months, made an impact. You know, did what we needed him to do. He was very much a solution for us last year, like kind of like Varane was a little bit. But just happy to see him now that we have Lewandowski and we have a very, star-studded filled attack. It makes sense for him to go find, better pastures, better horizons, however you want to put that. But from Arsenal's perspective, I don't say we miss him, but believe me, when we play Chelsea, when Arsenal plays Chelsea,
Oh
that's going to
shit,
be
dude,
a
it's gonna be
huge
sick.
talking point. I'm
Mhm.
almost wondering how Gabriel and Saliba are gonna treat him. But I don't think there's going to be this, fucking no love lost filled rivalry, and there's going to be, all of this, blood spilt, so to speak. I don't think it's like that. I think it'd be different had he been there, I don't know, for like a fucking decade or something, and then went on to like
Yeah.
Chelsea, Tottenham, or West Ham.
Yeah, or if you went straight from Arsenal, right? Like if you didn't have that
Yeah, yeah.
break at
He also
Barca.
went to
Mm.
Barca first, and now he's just doing what's best for his career. Like, you almost can't be mad at it. But trust me, this is also America. This is not fucking UK. In the UK, I'm sure they're like, "Fuck that dude." The minute that we
Yeah.
play Chelsea, they're gonna be
Blasting
burning the
him.
stakes, and
Yeah, dude.
yeah, bro, it's gonna be very Game of Thrones esque. I don't know. We'll fucking see. But yeah, I think Alba did what was right for him to do. I mean, Alina, if you put yourself in Alba's shoes, in Aubameyang's shoes, good move, right?
I think it's a good move for him, and it's not like he's downgrading. I mean, Chelsea and Barca are about, I would say like the same level. We're in the beginning of the season too, so you don't really like. It's not like he's leaving in the middle of like the winter transfer market or something like that.
Yeah.
I think it's a good move for him. I do think that he'll be able to get a little more playing time because I think Barca is pretty much always going to be a second choice to Lewandowski. There was no way he was going to start over him. So I think it's a good move for him too, and I think especially for his age, I feel like he still has a couple more seasons to give. I would say maybe one or two at the highest level. So I think it's a good move
How many
for Chelsea
goals?
as well.
How many goals he scored at Chelsea this season?
Oh.
Hmm.
All comps or EPL?
Ooh, let's just say all comps, because I think EPL is almost too difficult to tell,
I
and
think
because I
he.
think that with rotation, that's when he's gonna really get his
Yeah, yeah.
his time to shine. So yeah, let's just say all comps, right? A lot of season left.
Cup. Yeah, cup games and all. I'm gonna go 15.
Ooh, that's actually a really good number. I feel like 20 would have been too high. But I
Yeah,
do see like strong double digits.
especially
Alina,
I
what do
was
you
because
think?
thinking 17.
love it.
Oh,
Yeah, like
love it.
right in
Always on the
between
same
you
wavelength.
guys.
Here's the thing about that though. Like when I think about cup games, especially like early rounds,
Yeah.
I know they actually got Man City in the Carabao Cup coming up, which is kind of crazy. Like to think about a big matchup
He's a
like that early on.
counter-attacking fiend, though.
Exactly, though, and that's the type of team that he's going to probably wreak havoc against. So I could see him getting like 10 probably in the EPL, especially with rotations and things like that. But yeah, probably 15 sounds like a good number.
It's gonna be really interesting to see how they line up. I think the mixture of him, Havertz, Sterling, even guys like Pulisic. I don't think
Pulisic should have gone,
does
dude.
anything. He should have, man.
Oh.
Fucking Captain
Did he have
America
any
found a
offers?
way to stay.
Leeds was a big rumor.
Leeds?
On loan.
The United loan rumors were quashed on deadline day. Like they weren't going to do it to a rival on deadline day. It was really, really tough. And that's another thing, right? And we're kind of just jumping right into that. The departures that were supposed to happen, Pulisic didn't go. Marcus Alonso did, but it only happened by contract termination. Like Todd Bowley didn't want to dramatically shift a lot of their team on the final day. Like, which it's crazy. I mean, I don't know what Pulisic is going to do to get the reps he needs or to prove he deserves the reps he needs prior to the World Cup coming. But this feels like it was a negative, like a strong negative, not just for him, but for the U.S. men's national team coming into a very crucial window. If he keeps playing at the same type of minutes he's been getting, I think the most he's gotten in any game so far was this past weekend where he got 60 minutes. And usually it's 30 to 35. Definitely doesn't get more than a half. For the first time he did, he got a start and got 60 minutes. If it keeps going on that same thread, is the U.S. men's national team in trouble at all, Andre?
That's a tough question, dude. I wouldn't say in trouble, but I do think that the questions about advancing in that group, are going to start coming. The reason why I say that is because a lot of people, when they saw England and Iran, were like, okay, England, sure, maybe we get a tie, even with a loss. And then here come Wales out of fucking nowhere. And I'm telling you, dude, they're going to be a dark horse this year. A lot of people were saying like, oh, they're not going to even advance. They have to go through Ukraine or Scotland. I mean, it was, cakewalk. And so I think those two games are going to be really tough. So long story short, I don't think they're fucked, but I think somebody's got to step up big. And you know who I'm thinking about? Your boy McKennie. Definitely thinking about putting the team on his shoulders.
Bro, you know who I think could actually step up? And like, look, I said this before, and this is very much a hot take. I always thought Pulisic for the U.S. men's national team was better off the bench. I don't know why, but I think that he was like a really solid fucking 12th man. And he would come in and like the game would be kind of static, not really moving, or neither team really doing too much. And he would come in and be this spark, this energy they needed. And now I like coming into the first month of the season, I thought that could have been guys like Aronson. But who knows? Maybe I was right. Maybe Aronson needs to be the one that's that third lung that the team didn't really have, and just kind of always running, always moving, and that Pulisic comes off the bench. I don't know. I mean,
I agree. Gio has to stay healthy. We've talked about that, right? Gio has to stay healthy.
He could be the 10 too. Yeah,
he can play as a 10. I mean, you've got Aronson. Obviously, Tyler is going to be all over the park, so it's not like they're like completely screwed. But I think a lot of the attention goes towards Pulisic. And so if he's out or if he's not in good form, then that attention is going to be put on other players and questions are going to be raised. So we'll see.
Plus, you can't call him LeBron James if he's come off the bench, right? I mean, that's just
yeah, dude.
You can't call him
That's in America. Can't do that, bro. Come
on. But yeah, look, I think Chelsea had an eventful fucking window. I mean, they saw a couple people leave, a couple people stay that maybe shouldn't have stayed, but ultimately bringing in Aubameyang, bringing in Zakaria, bringing in Fofana. I think it drastically shifts what I thought that team was going to do. Now I see Chelsea, if they can make these pieces work, if Conte can come back and pair with Zakaria in a big way, really kind of take control of that midfield. I think the whole team benefits in a really big way. I think Kovacic starts to get more healthy. I don't know. There's a lot of a domino effect it can have, and I see them. It's almost between them and United right now for top four, and I can see them just like edging it out. And United to me is going to be like Arsenal was last season, in my opinion, just kind of with how they're doing, how they're moving. But we'll talk more about that. Staying in line with the Prem transfer deadline day fallout, we know they needed to make a move. They did. I think it's still kind of underwhelming, but time will tell. Liverpool, they needed to add a piece to the midfield. I was really surprised to see them not go after Tielemans from Leicester City. I feel like that was a strong midfield option for a number of teams in the final days of the window. They opted for Arthur Melo from Juventus instead. Comes over on a loan move. I think because of what Arthur does well. He used to play at Barca, right? I was always a fan of his tempo, his ability to keep possession. I think he didn't work at Juve for a few different reasons, but the biggest one was probably, in my opinion anyway, he doesn't play Allegri ball. It's just a different system. It didn't really work that well. But who knows? I could be wrong on that. Alina might have a completely different opinion. But let's talk first from the lens of Liverpool. Good move. Is this what they need, or was a workhorse, more needed? Someone along the lines of like Wijnaldum back in the day, Andre.
Yeah, I think so. I think you hit the nail right on the head. And we talked about it last week, right? With a bunch of names that we threw out there.
Yeah.
Arthur came out of nowhere, to be honest. He didn't really do much at Barca, which that to me was kind of shocking because he was, obviously really highly talked about. When he went to Juve, I think he pretty much fit the mold, right, that you were talking about a little bit. And I'll let Alina talk a little bit more about it. But I think that one is actually a player that I wish could have stayed at Juve, because I would have loved to see him play there with Vlahovic up top. So I don't know. I don't think it highlights, or I guess I don't think it addresses the need that Liverpool had, to your point, of a workhorse, of somebody who changed the pace. I feel like he's just going to fit in, and it's going to be just another midfielder like Fabinho, like Thiago, Hendo, Milner. Like, they all feel like they're kind of made out of the same, or cut from the same cloth, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
very much a cloth midfielder.
Yeah, exactly. Just pretty pragmatic. If that's the best word that I can find for him.
Yeah, and look, Alina, from Juve's perspective, are you guys going to miss Arthur? I mean, it sounded like this was a loan move that they were pretty, like you mentioned before. There were a few midfielders that were kind of on the chopping block, excuse me, and they weren't really opposed to this move happening. Why? Why were you guys not wanting to keep Arthur?
Well, here's the thing about Artur is because he was brought as a player. I think you have paid 50 million plus Pjanic to Barcelona at the time, so it was a pretty hefty sum for more like a CM that plays in front of the defense and kind of dictates the tempo. And he was initially brought in as a player for Sarri's system 2 to 3 seasons ago. And as we know, like Sarri was a coach that needs a couple seasons for his football to kind of take shape. And Juve are a club that they don't have that kind of time, right? They want to win all the time. They want to win right now. And then with Pirlo, we saw him kind of like being integrated a little bit more. But it's still, with Pirlo gone and Allegri back, Allegri plays very direct. Whereas Artur his passing range is short, and that's one of the criticisms that Pirlo gave him too, is because he just couldn't see those long passes, those direct passes that would like penetrate the midfield into the winger, the striker, whatever it is. So in that regard, he might be a little more suited for Liverpool's play style. But that's one thing we have to keep in mind. His passing range is short, and that's why with Sarri he was injured, so we didn't really see as much with him and what he would have been able to do for Juve.
Yeah.
With that kind of like play style, with like heavy possession, a lot of like triangles, tiki taka kind of thing. With Pirlo, obviously a whole new system, and then his passing range was the issue. And then with Allegri, like I said, Allegri likes to play direct balls. He's very conservative, and he plays counterattacking too. So there is no place for Artur in that system. But I
Yeah.
wish him all the best. And if he performs well, I think the obligation to buy is like 37 million. So that's a good chunk of money that Juve can use for a player that they're initially not gonna use at all. Either way.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was a good move for Liverpool. Actually, a good move for both clubs. Like you mentioned before, right? What didn't really fit the system or the mold of Allegri, and then ultimately, I think it's Thiago 2.0. I think it gives him another touch midfielder who retains the ball, knows how to play around midfields and defenses through possession, through tempo. So it'll be a good ad. And speaking of kind of, that same, I would say, type of player fitting into a system that, is just at a higher level in a more competitive league, Manuel Akanji, making the move from Dortmund over to Man City, a very kind of highly rated youth player as a center back. Man City did not move on any other defenders to bring him in. This is solely a depth addition, and I like the move. one for the price tag, 17 million, but two for the potential. I think there's a ton that Akanji can do. He's good with his feet. He reads the game really well in the back. Hasn't had quite as much opportunity to lead a back line. I'm curious to see how Pep will incorporate him there. But I think maybe this is also a sign that Pep isn't quite as optimistic on Ake, right? Like Ake's kind of been in and out already to start the season when this was supposed to be his opportunity to shine. And they have other center backs there as well, right? Diaz, John Stones. There's a lot for Akanji to learn from, but making this move over, I think this one's super straightforward. Not too much to talk about. Alina, anything that you see? I mean, does this kind of reinforce that City is basically just a complete team from top to bottom?
Oh, definitely. I mean, it is just honestly, for now, it's more of a depth signing for me. And then we'll see how he gets incorporated and how much, he fits into Pep's system and with the teammates around him. But
Yeah,
it's
Akanji.
another reason for other Premier League teams to kind of, raise an eyebrow. And I don't know, I feel like that's what led Chelsea to like get so many signings because look at City, who's going to catch up?
Yeah, yeah, and City's
It's
just
super
getting
hard.
deeper,
Yeah.
deeper. And now, like, I mean, I think at every single position they have two viable starters, which is fucking insane.
It's
Like the
insane, dude.
legit
You have like
two
starting
viable
11s.
starters.
Yeah.
Yeah, for a top European team that they could just rotate through.
Dude,
Um,
Mhm.
honestly, the way that I was thinking about that move is it's not even like a depth signing. It's like a bully move. It's almost like,
yeah, bro.
well, we're going to fucking get him and nobody else can get him. So screw you. Like,
and
So it's
and
like
Dortmund, how I don't understand how
so
they're
unnecessary.
just a farm system now for
Yeah,
like
dude.
for every big club.
It's like
It's like
Ajax.
it's crazy, bro. But okay, but Ajax, they will pull in the 17 million is the only piece of that deal that stands out to me. The
Yeah,
Akanji deal, they
they
probably
should
could
have.
have pulled
It's a
20 million,
bargain, dude.
25 million plus.
Easy, bro. Yeah, it's
With
such a
how
bargain.
lucrative the market
Yeah,
is,
yeah,
like I don't know, bro. They could have got more. Like you said, you mentioned Ajax. Ajax got 90 plus million for
yeah.
Anthony. Like
Yeah.
that's
Alone.
what you
Yeah,
want. I
yeah.
think they could have gotten more. Who knows? But either way, City looks to be in full force heading into European matches starting. Staying within the realms of the Prem, this one isn't necessarily any major move happening. I would say it's a lack thereof. I think being an Arsenal fan and many Arsenal supporters were looking for the club to make a crucial move. We're already going through. I wouldn't say an injury crisis, but we're not really far from that yet. But Arsenal failed to secure a move they attempted three different times. Douglas Luiz from Aston Villa sent three different bids in on deadline day. All of them rejected. I don't think any one of them really surpassed 30 million. They didn't want to spend too much on him. The same reason they didn't go after Tielemans to close the window out. But now you see, and we saw it, yesterday in the United Arsenal match. They're lacking depth. Partey's injured. El Neni's injured. We have to start Sambi Lokonga. And I don't think he necessarily played bad. And we'll talk about that game here in a little bit, but it's affecting them. Andre, will this hurt Arsenal between now and January? Should we be worried about this, or can we get to the World Cup with the midfield that we have? Arsenal speaking.
That's a great question. I would say, looking at it long term for the entire season beyond the World Cup, I think it does affect it. I think from now till November, which I think the last match is like November 2nd or something. It's like first week of November, right?
Yeah.
So we've only got 2 months, pretty much, 8 weeks. Let's just say 8 to 10 weeks left. I think you guys are fine. It was kind of evident though in the match against United, and we'll talk about it later. But that's the one piece that's kind of lacking or missing, right? It's just that depth. And we talked about it at the beginning of the season. Like, you guys were flying on the field, you look great, but what happens if Partey goes down? What happens if Xhaka goes down? What happens if Odegaard goes down? And so I
Bro,
think
if Shaka goes down, that's it. I'm calling it wraps because we just don't have a number 6 anymore. Like
That's
the
what I'm
6 is
saying, bro.
gone. Like
Yeah.
Sambi, he's young. He's like 20, 21 years old. He can't do it by
Agreed.
himself in the Prem
Yep.
of all leagues. Like you need depth, and I feel like you have such a fucking missed opportunity to get a player. Bro, it could have been anybody. It didn't even have to necessarily be Tielemans, even though it's who I wanted.
Yep.
But shit, bro, Arthur, it beat Liverpool to Arthur on a loan deal. I don't give a shit. Like, it could have literally been anybody. Like, make a fucking move. And it was so frustrating.
The other thing, too, is if you're talking about Tielemans alone, Leicester's already, like, stripped down to, bare bones.
Yeah, they probably would have wanted more for him.
That's what I'm saying. And so like maybe that's a win, but yeah, like there's other options that you could have been like, dude, can we please just sign somebody on loan? Like
We're
just like
down to our
a little bit of
third
depth.
fucking defensive mid, and we're a month in. We're a
That's what I'm
month in,
saying. A
bro.
little bit of
Like,
depth would have helped. I don't think Arteta
uh,
was. He's gonna put the boots on. He's gonna play. I think he can probably still play.
it just kind of feels like when we let Aubameyang go last season,
Yeah,
and we didn't bring anybody, and Kentia is our starting forward now.
yeah, I
Like,
know.
what the fuck were we thinking? And now it's like we didn't learn from that. We didn't learn that we bottled top four at last season, and then we come into this, and it's like we're top of the league after the first month, but then injury one happens, injury two happens, and it's like
Dude, I was actually
I
talking
could
to one
see
of
it
my.
happening again, bro. It's like fuck.
I was talking to one of my cousins down here, and he follows the EPL pretty closely, and he's like, "Dude, look at the calendar for Arsenal starting pretty much after a United game." And he mentioned October, dude. It's tough as shit because
Mm-hmm.
not only do you have the EPL that are really tough matches because you got City in there as well, but then you also have the Europa League matches that are
Yep.
going to be
Mm.
very strenuous, and you're going to play 3 matches a week because then you start throwing in Carabao Cup, FA Cup. So when he showed me the schedule, I was like, "Damn, this is going to be tough." Like, I don't know. It's going to
Yeah, I
be
don't know, bro. And people forget too. It's still a young team.
tough.
It's like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
Arsenal's playing beautiful football. Like they'll be fine. Like, bro, our average age is still like 22 or 23 years old.
Yeah.
Even the signings we brought in, Jesus is 25. The oldest veteran on the team is 28, and so and Shaka. So like, it's just not a very experienced team. Too, and experienced teams are the ones who make the best out of those various cup scenarios and all the matches they have. When you're lacking those starters, I just don't fucking know, man. I'm a little bit worried, not even about the United match. I think that's a rivalry where anybody can drop points. It's more about what's coming and the fact that we're already seeing injuries. But I don't know. Maybe it'll be okay. Fuck, man. It's just so frustrating to watch. Um, with that said, staying on the lines of Arsenal, dude, it's fucking depressing. Staying on the lines of Arsenal, they terminate the contract with Hector Bellerin. He joins Barca on a 1-year deal. Alonso does the same thing with Chelsea. They come in after terminating their contracts respectively. Both are a little bit older. I think Hector's 29, almost 30. Marcus Alonso 31, almost 32. But depth signings probably for Barcelona more than anything else. With Barca making moves the way they have now, a lot of these guys in a free transfer, stacking up pieces, right? I think personally, I don't have anything wrong with them. I'm not excited about these moves, but defense is where we lack a lot of depth. And Xavi made it a point to go out there and get 2 pieces that he thought were going to change the game and just allow us to rest guys like Jordi, allow us to rest guys like Araujo, who constantly play week in and week out. I think these are good moves. I think for Arsenal's perspective, we probably could have kept Bellerin, but I'm not mad at him going to Barca. But Alina, is there anything to take away from these two guys? Are they going to change the game dramatically for Barca? Are they going to offer them something when rotation has to come into play, like for the upcoming Champions League matches?
Well, I think it's big because they probably knew in the back of their head that Dest was leaving as well, so they had to bring in
Mm-hmm.
someone. And
Yeah,
I think Bellerin is a perfect choice to, maybe I don't know if he's going to be good enough to push for a starter spot, but he's definitely going to be able to rotate and give those guys a rest because as you guys were talking about, like there's going to be Champions League now, there's going to be a league, and then there's going to be cup leagues. It's pretty much a game every 3 days.
yeah,
And it's going to be insane for the teams that don't have depth or for the teams that have players but they're not as good as they should be. They're not ready as they should be. So I think it's a good signing
yeah.
personally.
I do too, and I think that Andre as a Madrid fan, um, who I'm surprised didn't make more depth moves in the window. Just because you guys are a great team, but I think that again when the cup matches start to take place, rotation has to come into play, and everybody has to worry about spots then. But I don't know. Do these moves and what this does to bolster Barca's squad? I don't know, bro. Does it fucking worry you at all?
Doesn't worry me, bro. Don't worry about it. We're the only team. We're the only team in the Big Five that has won every match so far, so I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, that's fair.
But that being said, I do. I don't want to say admire. I don't want to give you that credit. I'm going to highlight your creativity when it came to getting these moves out of nowhere and then adding depth because we keep talking about that depth, right? Do you guys have like a special relationship with Arsenal? Like, what the fuck's going on? I feel like there's a lot
Hey,
of players
bro.
that You know what I
A
mean?
lot of players. It's so
Both
weird too
ways.
Yeah,
because like
that's true.
when Wenger was there, we still had that shit going. It was crazy.
That's what I'm saying. It's weird. I don't know
I
what's
don't
going
know,
on.
bro.
But the Alonso one kind of was shocking to me because he was playing a lot under Tuchel, and I know that Chilwell's been playing a little bit better, but Alonso gives you that.
Kukurea could have
Yeah,
been the
sure. He gives you creativity though, and he can also give you versatility because I've seen Alonso play, kind of like a winger up top. So yeah, that's kind of a shocking one for me.
yeah.
And the other thing too is with Serginho Dest leaving, I think adding Bellerin at right back, which has been kind of a position for a long time, ever since Dani Alves left. Really, like you guys haven't been able to fill that.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
bro.
like
I mean, think
Serginho,
about it. A fucking decade of having one player. I
yeah,
mean, it's gonna be so hard to fill that spot when
exactly.
he leaves.
So it's very similar to like what's going to happen to us now that Carvajal is getting older, and you've seen him getting hurt, and we had fucking what's Ashraf Hakimi who went to PSG and we let him go. We had
Or
Odriozola who went
Hakimi
to
was so good.
Fiorentina,
Theo
who was the
Hernandez was
best,
another
dude.
one
We had
that
Theo,
left.
dude.
Oh,
Like talk
Bro,
about
Real
all the right
Madrid
backs that we've
constantly
had.
does this shit. They let Odegaard
I
go to
know.
Arsenal. I'm
I want
like,
to talk about
bro,
it,
and
bro.
for a fucking steal. I mean,
Yeah,
like
I know.
38 million. I was like,
Yeah.
bruh, I will take that all day.
And now he's club captain. So anyway, we're
Yeah.
kind of tangent, but
We digress. We digress.
yeah. No, but dude, it's good shit for you guys. I mean, you guys needed it.
I think we really needed
It's
it.
going to be interesting to see, like especially once Europe starts in that group with Bayern and Inter. Those are going to be tough matches, bro. So
Yeah, they will.
props
They
to you,
will. And
man.
look, I don't know. I think at the end of the day, it's depth we needed, and it's depth that knows how to play Xavi ball. I think the big thing, and we'll jump right into it with Serginho Dest making the loan move from Barca to AC Milan.
Yeah,
I think a lot of Barca fans are so critical of that move because Serginho's 20, he's 22, whatever he is. He's great young age, has speed, has talent, but I think his decision making is interesting. It doesn't fit Xavi's system at all. It's like he kind of gets confused positionally and where he needs to be and how his play needs to progress as the play progresses. And the critical part was, oh, we're adding players who are already either on the wrong side of 30 or right at 30, and it's the age doesn't make sense. But they're also low risk moves. Like Hector's coming on a 1 year deal. Alonso's coming on a 2 year deal on a free. Both of them on a free. I just don't have any problem with that for the short term goals Barca wants to have, and it buys Xavi some time to find young talent that he thinks fits the mold. I do think Serginho probably, if he plays well in the Serie A this season, I think it becomes a permanent deal. I think that
I think so too.
that's the other side of AC Milan's defensive line, and then you have a ton of speed. Serginho on the right, Theo Hernandez on the
Yeah.
left.
Mm-hmm.
And Tomori in the back line, dude. It's going to look really good for Milan to maybe retain the Scudetto and continue to create issues for teams in the Serie A. As a Juve fan, Alina, before we head over to quick hits, does this move? I don't know. Does it piss you off? Does it worry you at all about Milan? I mean, they're now reinforcing as champions do. They're reinforcing in a really great way.
well, actually, for me, Milan, I'm a Juve fan, right? First and foremost, but Milan are my second favorite team in Serie A, I would say. And
Nice,
yeah, and I
interesting.
know for like where Juve are and where they've been for the past couple seasons, I don't think they're going to be winning the league. So at the moment, I'm like, okay, realistically, we want to make top four. That's our goal. And who do I want to see win Serie A? I don't like Napoli. I don't like Inter. The next realistic option is Milan, right? So I was happy to see them win last season over Inter. But I think it's an interesting move for Dest because for Milan they have Theo on one flank and then they have Calabria who's their captain as a right back. So I'm not sure if he's gonna come in. I don't think he's a depth signing. I honestly think because I know he's played on the right mid before, like as more of an advanced winger. So
Yeah,
that's
with
what I'm
Ajax he did.
wondering. Yeah, I wonder if they're gonna like kind of place him there, play him as a winger until Florenzi comes back, who is usually the fullback rotational option for Milan.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think I would like to see Dest more forward and feeding the you have Leao, maybe Ibra in a few months when he comes back. You have Giroud, you have Di Catalare, which I'm a big fan of that guy so far. But I
Yeah,
think it'd be fun to see him in the attacking, more of that attacking phase as opposed to rotated for fullback.
That's
yeah.
another thing too is we going back to the U.S. men's national team. that's another guy that has been kind of a little bit, I don't want to say in the shadows, but there's so much expectation. Like it feels like we haven't reached his peak, right? So to Alina's point, if he starts playing a little bit further up the field and adds that more, a little bit more depth on the wing on the right side, then dude, that's going to be pretty scary. Because I've seen Des play for Barca up top, and he can either hit balls from outside of the box, really good crosses, and he's creative, bro. Like he's actually a creative player, even from his Ajax days. Excuse me. So it might be good for him also, thinking about the World Cup as well.
I think so too. I think that's a great point for him specifically. Yeah. I think a great move for Milan. Don't get me wrong, but I think also for his confidence. Like the first month of the season, he had yet to suit up, not be on the bench or be on the roster. Had yet to be on the roster for a match, and so I think that was just the sign that Xavi was trying to pass along, saying, "Hey, look, you're a great player, but you don't fit my system." I think with Koeman, Koeman gave him a lot of flexibility, gave him the opportunity to push up, be involved in the attack a lot. He scored a couple of goals under Koeman. Yeah. I think with Xavi's system's very rigid. I think he wants his right backs to do very specific things, and I don't think it's because he's a bad player. I just think he doesn't fit the mold, and so I think this will be a huge move for him heading into a very crucial window where he's supposed to really build a ton of confidence leading up to the World Cup. So great move all around. I think it serves both parties well, and again, a ton of action that we saw on deadline day, and it was kind of crazy to keep up with, but yeah, a lot of fun. Moving on. Quick hits. Let's do some quick hits really quick. Let's jump right in. Fantastic weekend of fucking derby matches, just crazy score lines in general. Everything from the Prem to La Liga to the Bundesliga, which we'll talk about. I love bringing that up now because Bayern. I don't know, bro. Lewandowski's on the club now, so I'll throw jabs at Bayern whenever I can. But let's start with the Prem, right? Some quick hits from this past weekend. A lot of interesting results. But starting with the Merseyside derby, which I think probably most fans, bro, in this day and age are looking at as like, the almost a straightforward fucking match. It's shitty to say, but like Everton haven't been, David Moyes Everton in years. And we expected, I think, Liverpool, even though they've been struggling a little bit, to bounce back in a big way and get that result. Bro, Everton did enough. They frustrated them and held them to now what's being coined as the worst Liverpool start to a season since Brendan Rodgers was sacked. Let that shit sink in. Then that was 7 years. I remember that season. That was coming off of a crazy run to try and be in line for the title to Brendan Rodgers being sacked. We're now in that same place with Jurgen Klopp. Does Jurgen Klopp, is he in the hot seat, Andre?
Yeah, 100%. Especially because of the way that Liverpool had been playing for the past, say, 5 years. Making 2 Champions League finals, kind of almost back to back, and then this last one, right? So it's just like, I don't know, you kind of get to a point where you're like, the expectation is so high, and you have the budget, like it's never an issue to sign players and change things up. Well, fuck, dude, like why are you slipping?
Then right? Do it, right? It's like that's exactly. What I'm saying. Why aren't they doing it then?
And it's not like things change drastically. Like I don't want to hear, dude. We've talked about this on the show, but I don't want to hear any more like, "Oh, Sadio Mane leaving." Like that's the reason why they're falling, dude. Fuck that.
Hey,
man.
Bro,
like,
he was pretty fucking good though. He
was good, but dude, look at Diaz. Like you've got so much depth on that team, especially up top. I don't want to hear it. So yeah, I think to answer your question, he is on the hot seat, and I think they're going to be a little bit more. I don't want to. Probably the word is lenient with results here and there because of his past, because of what he's brought Liverpool to, and like at the same time, like compare him to Brendan Rodgers, the Liverpool team is completely different. So he brought hope back to Liverpool, but how much more rope do they have to give him? Right? I feel like at the end of the day, Europe is really going to be the test. If they don't get out of the group in Europe, I think he's gone. Like, I don't want to be like a sensationalist, but I think
it's so crazy. It's so crazy to even have this conversation. Alina, if in 7 seasons is 1 Champions League title and 1 Premier League title enough to save his job?
I would say so, yeah, because of how competitive, especially like the premise. Like, I don't think 1 title in 7 is that bad, and I do think they've fought each year too. It's not like they completely rolled over to the winning teams. Like it was always like, 3 or 4 teams fighting, and then maybe like towards that, maybe like last month or so, you'd see one team starting to like pick up a lot of points over the others. So it's not like they're completely out of like outplayed, right? They're not outplayed. I think it's more of like a mentality thing. I feel like something isn't clicking with them. Maybe there's something in the locker room that needs to be fixed. Um, but I do think it's Klopp's it's his main job to motivate his players and change their mentality, because no one else is going to do that for them.
Yeah, I agree. It's just so fucking crazy for me to sit here and think like by winter, right? We can legitimately be having a conversation. If they don't fucking turn this thing around, if Archer doesn't spark something in the midfield, maybe with Thiago or Fabinho, if Hendo and Milner continue to be relied upon because they have the experience, but they don't have the pace, technicality to keep up with the Prem anymore. If we don't see things change, by the time World Cup gets here, we could be legit talking about a scenario where Liverpool needs to find a new manager. Where and sometimes I've heard some pundits say this. I don't know how much truth to this there is, Andre. Maybe you could help me out with your playing background. Do at some point does the locker room just need a change? Is too much? Is 7 years of the Klopp mentality too much? Should they be moving players on a regular basis to ensure that that the mentality, the hunger, everything stays the same, and they keep it at a high level? Or should the manager be moved on now just because, not necessarily because of bad results, because he's a bad manager, but it's just because of what this locker room needs? Maybe they've just been together too long. Is that the case?
Yeah, that's a really good point. There's two things there that I would say. Number one, I think the team's gotten complacent. And the reason why I say that is because when you play with somebody day in and day out for 7 years, you get too used to the way that you play. You almost like play kind of blindfolded in a way, right?
Yeah.
And so when things start to not go the right way, or players are not doing their job like they should be, then you're like, throw your hands up in the air and you're like, what the fuck do we do? You look at the manager. But when the solutions that come from either the bench or from even weeks prior leading up to the season, or even like the week before a specific game, and you're looking at strategy and tactics and things like that, and you see the same thing over and over and over again, as a player, you kind of almost become almost like a robot in a way. And you say, well, what the fuck? Like, if I can't change it, if players can't change it, we're looking at the manager. So perfect example, and we literally just talked about it, is Brendan Rodgers at Leicester. Right? I mean, everybody knows how Rodgers ball. Everybody knows the way that they can play. They're gritty. They don't necessarily have that many big names, but here's the results, right? They've gotten 1 point, lost 5 out of 6, and they're in relegation battle, which is sad to see. I mean, I think he's going to be the first one to be sacked. Bro. He's going to be the first one to be sacked this season. It's sad because looking at Leicester when they won it, we've talked about this before on the show, and where they're now, it's just, to your point, you kind of get almost complacent in a way, and so I think Liverpool's almost there.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's tough to see, but look, that's a big rivalry match. They drew. I think great. For Frank Lampard, it feels good, but I think that for Liverpool fans, you got to find a way to turn this shit around. Staying within the Prem, moving on to the next quick hit. Chelsea nab a highly controversial W against West Ham. I say highly controversial because this weekend alone, the VAR drama was all over the fucking place. It was literally everywhere. I saw so many super heated debates over this call. If you guys didn't see it in the final minutes of the match when it was 2-1 Chelsea, there was a moment in the box where Mendy went to parry away a shot. Jared Bowen came sprinting over him. And look, on the most technical stances you could probably have, yes, Bowen does drag his back foot. It hits Mendy. I think if Mendy doesn't parry away that ball, we're having a different conversation. But nonetheless, it creates a moment where when it all happened, the ball got parried away. It comes back to Cornet from West Ham. He cracks it home. It goes in. They tie it 2-2. But that back drag leg from Jared Bowen creates the scenario where VAR has to come in and potentially make a critical decision. And they ruled the goal to be a foul first in the build-up play. And Chelsea walk out of there with a 2-1 win in a big derby match. I mean, I think every West Ham supporter felt cheated. How... Okay, I'll get each of your stances really quick before I jump into maybe the implications of this on the table. But Alina, let's start with you. Let's just start. Simple question: was it a foul?
No, I don't think it was a foul.
I agree with you.
But and I know that's like the consensus, like most people saying the opposite, but I don't think
It's
it was a
so
foul, to be
soft, bro.
honest.
It's such
It's
a soft
soft, like
foul.
that.
That is the
Just
perfect word
because
for
we
it.
have VAR doesn't mean everything has to be a foul now. Like
Okay,
I
do you
feel
know
like
my issue with VAR? Yeah, no, keep going, Alina.
yeah.
Sorry.
No, yeah, that was my main point. Like just
Yeah.
because we have VAR and we can take a second look at these things, just
Yes.
trust your first instinct. Like
Thank you. That's the word.
just
Instinct.
trust it. Like if referees have a license and they go through training for years and years and years,
Oh
why
man.
are we, I mean, penalties, yes, sure, like, or maybe angles that the ref didn't see, like handballs or fouls that it, like the angle was too hard to look at what happened in the box. But I feel like everything is being double checked. Like I swear, every, like a lot of the games that I watched this weekend, where even like every goal after we scored, it would say like on the bottom left, "Oh, VAR check in progress" or whatever. Like
Yeah.
It's like, why even celebrate? Why
exactly,
even get excited about
It's
exactly,
games? The
so
enjoyment is just leaving the fucking
anticlimactic.
game,
Yeah,
yeah,
bro.
dude. It
I
sucks.
was like, when I saw it was going to VAR, I was like, that's it. Chelsea are going to win this shit 2-1. And granted,
Yep.
I'm an Arsenal fan,
Sure.
and I don't want Chelsea to win, but I don't want West Ham to win either. It was
Yeah.
just, if I,
Yeah.
I just couldn't imagine being a supporter and seeing in the 88th or 89th minute your equalizer taken back on the
Yeah.
softest of fucking contacts. Like,
Yeah.
I think had that happened in the middle of the field,
Right. Play on.
um, or in the middle of a match, even, right? Let's say
Yeah.
that's the scenario, or let's say Mendy didn't even get a hand on the ball. Let's say he
Hmm.
doesn't parry it away. I
Hmm.
don't think a foul is called at all. I think
No.
that's like, okay, play on. It just bounced off of him or whatever, and we're talking. And or if Cornet misses, we're not talking about any of this shit. It's
Yeah.
just it's so shitty, man.
So
I couldn't imagine being a West Ham supporter
I completely agree. I was going to say, like, being a West Ham fan, I would be livid, especially because you need those points so bad.
right now.
Um,
Yeah, of all places.
oh, yeah. So two things about VAR really quickly that I think I kind of had been thinking about for a while, but like this weekend after seeing it over and over and over again.
It's annoying,
So
bro.
number one, what we were talking about in terms of instinct, but the piece that I add to it is in live play, like live speed. I'll give you an example: the United foul, or the foul on Eriksson for the first goal that got called back on Martinelli.
Yep.
Live play, I was like, play on, simple play in the
Yeah.
middle of the park, body, be physical, win the ball, whatever. When you slow things down, that's the issue. The ref didn't even call a foul. It wasn't until they told him in his ear to go look at the thing. It's frame by frame, and to Alina's point, you lose that instinct of saying, well, I didn't see a foul, but they're telling me that it's a foul. So that subjectivity piece is the thing that annoys the shit out of me when it comes to VAR. And I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one who feels that way.
No, you're not. You're not. And and now you're bringing it up. Let's jump into that result. United, frustrate Arsenal at home, rightfully so. I think Arsenal by far was the better team. I think most people would agree. They
Yeah.
played the best football, but United did enough in the moments where Arsenal, had slight mistakes and they took advantage of it and they win 3-1. I think I'm not super upset about that match as an Arsenal fan for a lot of reasons. For the way that we played, for the touches and the opportunities we created in the box. I'm more frustrated at one, like you mentioned, the VAR situation where they take the goal away in the beginning when we go up 1-0.
Mm-hmm.
The game's not played in slow mo, bro. It's not.
Right.
It's just
Agreed.
not. And I think that it can't just be contact. I think the contact has to warrant a foul. Like there can't be a scenario where VAR's like, oh, the arm was extended by Odegaard. That's what created the foul. It's like, no. Does that arm extension, is that enough for someone to legit fall right there and change the outcome of that play, whatever it may have been? I just think this is a telling sign. I felt like they were going to try and fix VAR over the preseason and offseason. They didn't. It's somehow still creating all these fucking controversies. And like Alina said, we're going to be in this scenario in winter where we feel like so many points were left on the table that teams couldn't take advantage of simply because there's this slow mode supposed to be an assistance tool. It's actually creating more problems. There's this tool out there that's just creating all these scenarios that are legitimately changing the outcomes of games in a negative way, one way or the
Yep.
other. I
Agree.
don't know, man. I don't know how we change this. I don't know what has to happen. I mean, is there anything maybe you guys would do to VAR? Is there something you would like to see officials do with the VAR system that would make all of this better? Because it's just getting worse and worse, in my opinion. I don't know. Alina, is there anything that you feel like VAR could be doing that they're not doing? Maybe it's consistency. Maybe it's not. I don't know.
Well, I think there is like a clear distinction between the referees in the VAR room and the referee in the field. And I feel like usually what we see is like the referees in the VAR room have a different opinion, like Andre was saying, like they have a different opinion than the referee on the field. And I feel like it's two, I don't know, it's like two different things because the people in the VAR room are looking at it in slow-mo, and that's a whole different thing. Um
Yeah,
so I feel like maybe the replay, when it's replayed, and shouldn't be slowed that much, and maybe it should be played at like the same speed that it actually happened, like whatever contact it was. I think that'd be one solution, or simply just use VAR for the things that you didn't see. Like, for example, if someone scored a goal and it was offside, of course use it. If there was like contact in the penalty that the referee didn't see, or a handball that the referee didn't see, use it. But it shouldn't be used for every single thing. And I think like heavily relying upon slowing down every single thing to look at like frame by frame, I don't think we should be doing that.
Yeah, I
yeah.
think it's not getting used, it's getting abused, and I think that's a really good point.
Yeah.
They're using it for everything now. Like, come on, dude. Like, oh, I saw one in the Liga MX, and I don't know if you guys don't watch it, but Liga MX, there was a throw in, and they went to check VAR for the guy
Bro,
lifting
shut
his
the
foot,
fuck up. There's not
lifting his
no way,
foot.
bro.
I was flabbergasted. I
Uh,
was like, come on, bro, play the fucking game.
this
Liga
game's
MX
not
was also
played
very
like that,
stressful.
bro. It's not
Liga
like
MX.
NFL.
Oh my
Yeah,
god,
yeah.
dude! So if you guys didn't watch, any of the Liga MX games, there were a handful of games that I watched here, down here in Mexico, and VAR was part of the conversation throughout. It was
That's
insane.
sad, bro. I'm sad
Yeah,
for that. It's just like
yeah.
it's not how the game works, not how it's played.
No.
I can't imagine how many of our special moments in the past would have been
Mhm.
changed pre VAR had VAR been
Yeah, that's
implemented, right?
what
Like,
I'm saying, bro.
bro, it's not that. You can't treat it like a game like American football where it's a play by
Mhm.
play game and the game constantly stops and you can
Yep.
assess the game that way. You could slow it down. This game's constantly moving, bro. I think if you move it from a fast paced match to something that's slowed down bit by
Mhm.
bit, I don't know what the hell are we doing then. Like I
Takes
don't
away
know,
from the
bro.
spontaneity, takes away from that momentum. It takes away from really the core of what's the core of the game, right? Which is just a free flowing, spontaneous game.
Yeah, I don't know,
So
man.
yeah,
It's
fucked.
upsetting to even think about. But with that said, put VAR aside. United did what they needed to do. They won at home. Look, as a neutral, if I were to be a neutral here, happy for United. I think the Premier League is kind of shit whenever United's not some kind of a big club. It's good to see them do this against the teams they're supposed to do it against. I think their most impressive thing though is their aggression. Like I mentioned before, it feels like Arsenal last season where they were a young, hungry team. This team's not young by any means, but they're still figuring each other out. They're still gelling. It feels like a hungry team who's going to show up for the big matches. The big question for me is, will they show up against the teams that they're supposed to show up against? Brighton, Brentford, they got absolutely smashed against those teams to start off the season, yet they beat Liverpool and Arsenal.
And Arsenal, yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah, and I'm sure they'll show up against City like they always do. They
yeah.
find a way to show up for the
Chelsea,
Manchester Derby against
yeah,
Chelsea, right? But can you show up against Newcastle? Can you show up against these other clubs who
Leeds,
you're
yeah,
supposed to show up
yeah.
against and not drop points? I think that's what's going to be the telling sign for them this season. I think Palace will be a big test for them. I don't know. I think it's still hard to gauge where United's going to finish. But the Anthony injection looks to be fluidly smooth. He slots right in. He knows Ten Hag system. They did enough to upset the better team yesterday. So all in all, kudos to United. Arsenal drops their first points of the season. They'll bounce back. Not too worried.
Still
Injuries
top of the
will
table.
be, yeah, still top of the table, but injuries will be, if there's going to be something that's a downfall of Arsenal, it will be depth, unfortunately.
Mm.
We'll see. Now, moving outside of the Prem into La Liga, both big clubs go on to win, I think, pretty comfortably. Real Madrid takes Betis 2-1 at, I think it was at home. Was it, Andre? Yep, and Barca makes it now 17 away matches unbeaten, taking Sevilla, who just looks like a former shell of themselves, 3-0, and had their way with them. Look, these are going to be pretty quick for us, guys. I think that La Liga is really starting to kind of take shape. I think after the top two clubs, it's really kind of anybody's guess who joins in because you had Atletico Madrid draw. More VAR controversy. I don't want to talk about that shit. They had a goal that was disallowed against Sociedad, and they tie 1-1. But in terms of Real Madrid, Barcelona, it looks like like I said, the league's starting to really kind of shape itself up. El Clasico should be a banger when it comes. But Lewandowski getting on the score sheet again, 5 goals to be in that Pichichi race with Iago Aspas. But all in all, Andre, let's start with you as the fellow La Liga fan here. Anything stand out? I know you guys were tied 1-1 at the break, but found a way for Rodrigo to break through in the second half. How do you guys feel like you performed?
Pretty good, man. It's one of the things that I was talking to a couple of my friends who are fellow Los Blancos fans, and we all talked about the midfield, man. You take Casemiro, which is such a pivotal piece of a team that plays the way that Ancelotti plays, and Tchouaméni just like fit right. Tchouaméni looks like he's been playing for Real Madrid for like fucking 5 years. Yeah,
that's who Liverpool should have fucking signed. Yeah, I say it all the time. That's who they should have signed. Yeah. They let him go to Madrid.
Yeah, and so I feel really good about it. Our midfield is fresh, fresh legs. They're young, they're hungry, they're workhorses, man. And even when you have Modric on the pitch, like he still can ball, right? And so that trident in the middle with Tchouaméni, Camavinga, and Valverde, dude, I'm excited for the next decade, bro. It's gonna be
it gives the old heads rest. Like the old heads will be pivotal this season. Let's not forget about that. They're gonna find a way in big Champions League matches to be relevant and take a lot of the pressure off of the young stars. But I mean, we all saw it. Like the minute they put Camavinga and Tchouaméni and Valverde together, I mean, we all kind of saw what that midfield would look like for the next decade. And so, provided that no big Prem clubs come knocking, I think we feel pretty safe saying that. From Barcelona's perspective, Alina, I mean, 3-0, Rafinha got on the book, Koundé got his first assist, Lewandowski got another goal. I think we all talked about the race between Benzema and Lewandowski, as the top scorer right now. It looks like Leva, but because he is just that guy. I remember you specifically saying that you felt like Benzema was still going to be Benzema. How are you feeling now after month one?
I think from a neutral, fan just watching standpoint, I like that they're very close. And I think the closer the teams are in terms of points, the better the Classical will be. So I'm just excited for that. In terms of the goals, again, I don't know. I didn't expect Lewandowski to do as well as fast as he's doing now, to be fair. So I will give you that. But yeah, I think that's exciting too, right? Like the Benzema and Lewandowski being so close in goals and points for their teams, and that's what's going to make El Clasico even more magical when the time comes.
Seriously, I think both front threes are so exciting. If you're a neutral fan, I think I'm so pumped for El Clasico to be El Clasico. The same way that I was pumped for United Arsenal's rivalry to be back. Like as much as it's shitty to say that Arsenal won, bro. The fucking Keane versus Vieira, Wenger versus Fergie, that rivalry feels like it's back in a really big way. You felt the aggression in the first 10 minutes. I think we'll see it. We saw a little bit in the summer, right, in Vegas when El Clasico happened here in the States. I think it's going to be an electric fucking show when it's back in Spain, right? And you get that front three of Rafinha, Dembele, and Lewandowski against Benzema, Vinny, and Rodrigo. I think you get so much speed on the outside from both teams. Two extremely clinical finishers up top. Fuck, man, I can't wait. It's going to be so exciting.
When is the first El Clasico?
October. It's always October and like April. Yeah. So, I'm really pumped for it. It's going to be fun. Barring that no crazy, again, I'm knock on wood right now, no fucking crazy injuries. Nothing happens on either side. Let's just get both teams in full effect out there. And look, as far as the table goes right now, like Andre said earlier, Madrid, the only team that remained perfect. Barca right behind them. And I think it's going to be, again, more of that, just neck and neck all the way through. Now, shifting out of La Liga into Serie A, had some crucial results this past week.
Not here.
I can't wait to hear what Alina has to say about. Let's start with that one. Let's start with that one. For the second time in a row, Juve drop points. This time to Fiorentina, and look. Juve's got so much shit going on right now, like whether it's players exiting or injuries on the field or Allegri just trying to figure out how to balance everything. I mean, it's Alina, let's start with you. Let's get yours out of the way. It can be as short as you want. Totally up to you. How are you feeling right now? Second draw in a row. If it continues down this path where you're dropping points where you shouldn't, does the system need to change? Should Allegri move on? I mean, because I think even with the roster you have, it's hard to make sense out of all of it. It's hard to figure out what Juve's identity will look like, especially with the injuries, right? Di Maria being out, a confirmation today that Pogba's going to have surgery, so he's out for a while. And then, you lose Archer to a loan. You're relying now heavily upon guys like Rabiot, Locatelli, and Weston McKennie. Are you excited about September through the January window?
I mean, you can tell how excited I am from my face, right? Like,
Yes.
cannot wait to watch every single game.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
It's so exciting. No, but oh my gosh, no. Going back to your point, Jose, about how short my response should be. It's not going to be short. I feel like I'm going to sit here and talk about this game and this performance for like at least 5 minutes. But
What does
man,
Nedved do? What does
I don't
Nedved do
even
to
know where to
help
start.
out
Like, where
Allegri?
do we start? I don't even know where to start from. We had one shot on target, and it was the goal, the Milik goal, which I'm happy for him. He's doing well. He's 2 from 2 now. So that's always a good thing to see. But we didn't get another shot for the rest of the game. I think the last shot was like either the 21st or the 28th minute. So it was straight up 70 minutes of nothing. Straight up parking the bus,
Holy
playing
shit.
Fiorentina's game. And I read another like crazy stat about how like in the last 5 years or so, Juve have only managed like such like a limited number of shots and goals against Fiorentina, which is insane to me. So like you see, it's like a constant thing where Juve are just they do not perform well at all against Fiorentina. And
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
I don't know. I mean,
I'm not a fan of Allegri. I don't want him. I don't want him to be sacked because Juve is not that kind of club. We don't really sack managers on like a whiff. We don't really make that kind of decision. We kind of just like look at the season as a whole and then decide at the end of the season. And also the guy is like on freaking like 12 million or something. So like what you're gonna sack him and pay him 12 million to stay at home? Like this is that doesn't sit well with me. So
yeah.
it's a mixture of literally he has a team playing like 5 different formations throughout the game. Like it's supposed to be a 4-3-3, and it's like a literal block of 10 players plus Milik super isolated on the top, or Vlahovic or whoever is going to play striker. It doesn't matter because the guy doesn't attack to begin with.
Yeah.
I think he's trying to figure it out.
Yeah, yeah, but it's this is the
How long do
second
you figure it
season.
out,
He
right?
has
Like,
the players. He has the players,
And he just got
and he's still
Paredes too.
yes, and he's still playing like this. So
Yeah.
he has no excuse at this point.
I don't know. It's tough. I honestly don't even know. But again, it's still start of the season. Let's not freak out. Things could change. There are some new faces on Juve, but it's just
So
a little
there's no
concerning.
progress. There's no progress from last season. There is nothing. There is no mentality. There's no play style. There is no nothing. They don't have an identity on the field, and it was the same thing for last season, and it's the same stuff here. So that's what's concerning to me is there's like we're getting all these players. Granted, like Di Maria's been pretty much out. He only played like a game and a half, and then Pogba, he's might as well terminate his contract next season. Honestly, I don't know what to say about the guy, but
It's so unlucky. But yeah, I mean, maybe his witch doctor will help. I don't know. We'll see.
Maybe
we'll figure it out. Speaking of finding your identity, I think Milan's done a really good job of finding just that, right? And takes home the Milan derby through the man that everybody wants, Rafael Leao. And I think let me ask you this, Andre, if Leao becomes someone who's a viable option, would you give up Rodrigo at Real Madrid for a Rafael Leao?
Oh, dude, that's a tough question, bro. Why didn't you ask me? Would you give up Dani Carvajal? I would.
Of course.
I would. No, you know what? I'll give you Mariano for fucking.
Oh, shut up, bro! We're not talking about Mariano. I don't even know what does he do. What does he do anymore at Madrid?
He fucking makes a lot of money for riding the bench. I'll tell you that much. That's
hell yeah.
That's like being QB2 or QB3, like in
fuck
American
yeah,
football.
dude. I want
the
that
fucking
job.
headset, have the clipboard, and make $10 million a year. Fuck it, dude. Maybe I think we can get a lot more for Rodrigo. So I think it's maybe a Leao and somebody else package deal. I would love him at Madrid, dude. We haven't had like. I love Benzema, obviously. Like it's Benzema, but he's like a 9.5. Yeah, he's not like a really solid number 9. Like the last number 9 that we had, before Ronaldo was probably Raul, and he was like a true number 9. Maybe
a true
Ruud van
striker.
Nistelrooy. Yeah, Ruud van Nistelrooy. But yeah, dude, Leao is a fucking beast, and obviously lost the Derby della Milanella, but whatever. Like I don't care. The Malonina, sorry. And so I don't really care anymore. I don't want to talk about it.
It could not get it done. But bro, I mean, Milan played a hell of a game, and Leao had, I mean, they just couldn't lock him down. Like he was kind of everywhere. His movement was great. I watched about 3/4 of the game while kind of traveling this past week and doing stuff, and it was. I think he's gonna I thought his price tag was crazy prior to the season starting. I think if he keeps performing like this with the rumors that I'm sure will come in January, I think it's gonna his rumored price tag to be 150 to 200 million.
Yeah,
something stupid like that. Good for him, man. I think Milan's going to continue to rely upon his athleticism to get results, and rightfully so. And then finally, before we wrap up quick hits, the Bundesliga. Man, I love seeing this shit. Bayern drop points for the second straight week, looking like Juve as they draw to Union Berlin.
I don't know about looking like Juve. They probably had some chances here and there.
Yeah. They probably did. But nonetheless, the results are results, and they drop points again. And more importantly, it was huge because Dortmund, despite the bullshit they've been going through, now find themselves tied top of the table above Bayern, which is fucking crazy. Just a quick question for both of you. We'll kind of wrap up quick hits here because I think this was really straightforward. Does this create a scenario where the Bundesliga is viable? It's competitive. It's what we all need as fans. Do Dortmund kind of keep this thing running, Andre? They found a way to narrowly edge out Hoffenheim through a Marco Reus goal. They did just enough. Don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting here saying that Dortmund's going to flat out fucking win the league now. But can we expect a real race with Dortmund not having Haaland anymore?
Oh, dude. I want to say yes so bad because we've talked about this for so long, how Bayern is just like the clear, front runner and all this. There's no depth in the league. And we kind of talked about Leipzig. I have been thinking about Bayern and Liverpool as kind of in the same scenario, dude. Like the 9-0, 7-0, 8-0 wins are kind of just like an oasis, bro. It's like a facade or like a mirage. You know what I mean?
It's not a real thing, yeah.
It's not real, bro. Like a lot of people when Liverpool won 9-0 against Bournemouth, they're like, oh yeah, they're back. And I'm like, I don't know about that. And sure enough. And so I think Bayern and Liverpool are in the same, kind of vein. And I will go back to the point that I made about Liverpool. We're going to measure how well they're doing in Europe, especially because they're in the group of death with you guys and with Inter. I think that is going to be the true test to see, if Dortmund can push Bayern out of first place. So I don't know, man. It's just, I will give you this. It's making me want to watch Bundesliga. I'll just say that. From a casual fan, I don't follow a team specifically, but it's making me want to keep a close eye on it.
Yeah, so. And more importantly, too, with this result that Bayern had, the goal scorer wasn't even like a fucking forward. As much depth as they have up front, it wasn't even like it was Kimmich. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, if you're a Bayern fan, are you worried at all? I mean, do you feel like this is just a blip on the radar, and they'll find a way to continue to stop teams in the Bundesliga, or can we now get excited because there's a title race?
I don't think we should be excited, to be honest, because realistically, it's just 1 point, right? Like Bayern are like 11, and you have Dortmund at 12, and I don't know. I there was one chart that I saw this like midweek of a lot of like the bigger teams, and it was literally a lot of them dropping points. And I just like leading into the Champions League week, so weeks like that,
it's gonna change, yeah.
I feel like I've seen those kind of like results very often where if it's like a game leading up to the Champions League game, whether that's like a week after that or just a couple of days after that, you always see these top teams dropping points for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting, and keep in mind, right, atop of the table right now is Freiburg. So take it for what you will. It's going to change a lot, but I'm hoping that I was just kind of assuming without Haaland, Dortmund would be kind of an afterthought. And it looks like they're finding a way to still get goals, even if it's coming from veterans like Marco Reus. So hopefully we get some form of a fucking race. But I think you got the right. The matches to come will be the key kind of tell there. All right. Well, moving on to our final segment of the show today, Champions League predictions. Not going through the table specifically, but kind of talking about the matches to come this week. Some big ones. I think 1 on Tuesday, 3 on Wednesday. I'm really kind of pumped for it. I think let's kind of go through these one by one really fast. And I kind of have a couple hot takes. I think it's interesting. I think Serie A has more to say this week than most people think, and we'll talk about it. But let's start with, in my opinion, this is actually probably the match of the week because I don't know how each team really sits right now, and Alina probably feels differently than I do. But on Tuesday, PSG takes on Juve. Even though you have been struggling in the Serie A, I still think there's something here. I still think this is going to be a competitive match. Paredes going up against his former club. He literally just left like a week ago. I think it'll still be a very defensive game from Juve's part, but who knows, right? Let's start with Juve, and then we'll switch gears to Paris's form of the Galacticos. So with Juve, I know you kind of shit on them, Alina, but realistically, Europe's always different. You don't have to be performing well in the league to get results in Champions League matches or in European matches as a whole. We saw who won Europa League last season? It was Frankfurt. We saw Frankfurt finish like 11th place, but take home Europa League, and now we're in the Champions League. Do you expect a different form of Juve to show up against PSG?
Here's what Allegri said, and I feel like that's all we're gonna need to really hear. He said, "PSG? ? Let's be realistic. The only game that matters is Benfica. So Juve are gonna go with that kind of mentality, the loser mentality, the excuses mentality of, oh my gosh, we are nowhere near PSG. Obviously, they're the favorites for first place. We have to fight Benfica for that second place." And that pisses the hell out of me, that kind of mentality, because that's the complete opposite of what Juve stand for. Like our mottos are fino alla fine, which means till the end, and winning does not matter. It's the only thing. Winning is not important. It's the only thing that matters. And you have clowns like Allegri coming into his press conferences and saying shit like that.
Yeah, dude.
I honestly, I'm not even mad at that. I actually, clowns is probably the. I know if it was like me, like I was calling Koeman a fucking clown this time last year, but yeah, that mentality of like, well, guys, we're not even there. They got Messi, Mbappe, Neymar.
Yeah, that's not a mentality for a team like Juve.
Especially in not even Juve, but for a team in Champions League. Champions League means you are literally Europe's elite. Like you should be able to compete with anybody that's on that field with you, regardless of what group you're in. I'm sure Victoria Pilsen is still trying to figure out a way to compete with Bayern, Barca, and Inter, even though they're by far the bottom team. I agree. You got to have that fucking winner's mentality, and because you're the leader as the manager, players follow suit. I think anyway. Andre, maybe I'm wrong. Is this just is Allegri right? Is this just a clear fucking runaway for PSG? I actually think it's going to be a close match. What do you think?
I think it's going to be a close match too. And again, I think Alina, you're probably a little bit more biased because that's your team and you've been following it and you're passionate about it. But I also think that PSG can be tested. I think there's something to be said about teams that are of that stature, and I'm talking about Juve, that when the challenge comes and it's European football, something happens. It's like United when they played against Liverpool. They rose to the challenge. So I'm hoping to find for it to be a really good game. I think that group is going to be a little bit tighter than people think because I also think Benfica can play ball. So we'll see, man.
Yeah.
Predictions. Alina.
Oh man, I feel like I'm just like a pessimistic Juve fan. So I'm gonna go. Oh my god! Yesterday, like after the game, I was like, oh my gosh, we're gonna lose 5-0. Like this is not good. Or not yesterday, like a couple days ago against Fiorentina. But I think it's gonna be.
It's in Paris, by the way.
4-1 to
4-1.
Damn,
that's not a lot of faith.
Okay, here's the thing. If you're very gonna sit in the defensive lock, it's not Fiorentina you're playing against. These people know how to like score goals against Park the Bus team. Like, it's you're not freaking playing against Jovic. No offense to Jovic, but you're playing against Messi, Mbappe, Neymar.
That's fair. 4-1. Yeah, maybe.
Depends on how they play, though.
Joey, what do you think?
Depends on how they play.
If they don't park the bus, I think it'll be a close game. But if they sit down the whole game like they've been doing for the past couple days, I think it will be a heavy result.
Yeah. So look, I'm not too far away from Alina, but here's my caveat. I actually said 3-1 as my prediction. However, I saw it being 1-1 to like the last 10 minutes. I think what happens is they sit back. I think Juve gets maybe like an early goal from Vlahovic or someone, and then they kind of retract into themselves a little bit, try to write it out. PSG will find an equalizer at some point through the match, and then it'll be that bend don't break mentality, but they will break in the final 10. And at that point, I see a couple quick goals from PSG, kind of just solidifying the W. But I do think that throughout the entire match, it's going to be back and forth with a lot of defense coming from Juve. What about you, Andre?
3-1. You
3-1.
we're on
Yeah.
the same page. Yep.
Yeah, I think that's where it goes. But I do think it's closer. Alina might be the pessimist here, but I do think that Juve find a way to show up. Moving into Wednesday, some huge fucking matches, and again, I said he has a lot to say, and when it comes to their opponents, let's start with what I consider to be one of the group of death matches: Inter versus Bayern Munich. Bayern just came off both teams are coming off of drop points. Bayern for 2 weeks in a row. Actually, I think for Inter, it's also probably 2 weeks in a row. This is a huge match for setting the table for the group, especially if what happens on Wednesday, like we all assume will happen, Barca taking those 3 points from Victoria Pilsen, it'll kind of set the table for that group, which I think is Group H or something. Or Group C, I think. So Inter Bayern, this one's tough. Because I think even last season, Inter had a lot to say in the match against Liverpool. Let's start with you, Andre. Give me a score. I believe it's going to be in Milan.
Yeah, it is. 1-1. I think both teams are going to be a little bit. It's the first match. I think both teams are going to 1 point. But I also think, from both teams' perspective, getting a point out of this match is going to be key, and it's going to be pivotal. Barca's going to walk all over Victoria Pilsen, so we don't even talk about that. But if I'm Bayern and I go to a pretty tough stadium at the San Siro and I get 1 point, I'm happy. If I'm Inter, the way that we've been playing, losing against Milan, you don't want to drop points. Getting a point will be obviously a little bit underwhelming, but I think it's 1-1.
1-1. Alina, what are you thinking?
I think it's gonna be 2-1 against Inter.
2-1 Bayern?
Yes.
Okay. That's actually a fair result. I actually have 2-1 Inter. I think Inter has a lot to say. I think Bayern is now maybe 2 draws in a row trying to overcorrect maybe. Maybe Nagelsmann changes things up with the formation for Europe and rotates. That's another thing too, right? Is do teams start rotating this early? I think you should, especially if you're anywhere near the top of your table. You want to make sure you stay there. I don't know. I can see Inter narrowly scraping out a dub on this side. In the return leg, Bayern maybe creating a wider gap with the result on that side. So that's my pick. I think Inter will have a lot to say for themselves.
I don't think Lukaku's playing though.
Oh, is he not?
Yeah, I don't think so. He's injured, so that's why I'm kind of like hesitant.
Yeah. Oh, Lukaku the GOAT? Hell yeah. We'll see what he does when he comes back. But either way, I still think Inter will do enough. And I think like defenders like Skriniar are going to be super important at keeping guys like Sadio Mane at bay. So I think they'll let one in, but I feel like at home they'll do enough to get by them and create some competition. I think everyone just kind of assumes it's probably going to be Bayern and Barca or something along those lines, but I think Inter will have more to say than people think they will. Moving into Napoli versus Liverpool. This, in my opinion, is the fucking tie of the week. And can I get my hot take out there now? Is that cool?
Yeah, go for it.
I think Napoli win this group. I think Napoli win this fucking group. I
like it.
Unless they flat out get smashed by Liverpool on Wednesday, I think even if it's like a draw or somehow, I think they get enough results elsewhere and they beat them in the return leg, something along those lines. But right now, Napoli has one of the most talked about, underrated teams in all of Europe. They're scoring goals at a pace right now that many teams can't keep up with. I see, and granted, Chucky Lozano may not be available for the Wednesday match. Who knows what that looks like? But at home against a Liverpool team that just isn't maybe at full strength or isn't firing on all cylinders. Yeah, I fucking like that pick. I like Napoli. I'll go 2-1 again. 2-1 Napoli.
Damn.
Andre, what are we thinking? Does Liverpool figure it out? Do they find a way to maybe start firing in Europe? Does Darwin Nunez have more to say now that he's eligible to play?
Yep, dude, you stole my point. I think Liverpool win 2-1. I think Napoli are good in Serie A, but I think once they start getting tested in Europe, that's where the true colors will come out. Dude, let's not forget about Ajax in that group. Like, I know that
That's true.
they got
That's true.
stripped
That's
of
true.
talent, but those guys can fucking ball. Yeah, I'll go Liverpool 2-1.
All right, Alina, give you a prediction.
Oh man, I would like to see. My prediction is Napoli 2-0. Honestly,
Wow,
with that striker that I cannot
wow,
pronounce his name, I think
wow.
he's gonna I think he's gonna get the 2 goals. But here's the thing with Napoli, though. I feel like they really have a good shot this season in Serie A, and the way that these like smaller and sorry if there's any Napoli fans listening to this, but the smaller Serie A teams, because you have Juve, you have Inter, you have Milan, um, and then the smaller teams without that Champions League mentality, they would rather kind of throw Champions League in favor of doing well in Serie A or pushing to win Serie A. So I think that's what we're gonna see happen with Napoli. But
Yeah.
realistically speaking, if both teams are giving their 100%, I do think it's going to be 2-0 with
Oui.
that new striker that I don't know how to pronounce his name, but I think
Yeah,
he
that's fair. And
will
it's
get
going
on
to
the
be
score sheet.
it's going to be in Naples too. And I just think that,
Yeah.
Tough
I
game.
remember watching Liverpool against Inter last year in Milan, and I remember just Liverpool
It was a
struggling a
close
little
game.
bit. It was a close game, and I think that Napoli will have more to say than people think they will. So for me, like I said, I may be going on a fucking limb here, but I think that they're going to take the group, just because Liverpool does not seem like tried and true Liverpool, and it's probably more of that being the case here than Napoli just being outright the best team. And then finally, maybe a dark horse to keep an eye on here, not just in terms of the match, but in terms of the team involved. Tottenham makes a visit out to Marseille in France on Wednesday to kind of hopefully restore any kind of a presence in Champions League. Remember how bad they were in Europe over the last couple seasons. Maybe Spurs find a way to turn it around, or they just continue to do Spursy fucking things. Who knows? But Marseille equally, I think this is like one of those. Um, this is one of those tests that they may kind of overlook, may ignore. But I think if you pay attention to the moves Marseille made over the offseason, you pay attention to how they're actually playing in Ligue 1 to start off the year, they look fucking good. Marseille looks like they're starting to kind of find their stride, find their place, and gel as a team. And I think that's scary if you're anybody playing in Champions League. So quick predictions on this one. I think Tottenham probably comes in as the favorite, but Alina, where do you gauge this one, Tottenham versus Marseille on Wednesday?
I'd like to see a draw with this one. I think a draw
That's
would be
probably fair,
realistic.
actually. Yeah,
Yeah, because I feel like Conte is one of those guys that really doesn't really care that much about Champions League, and we saw that with Juve, we saw that with Chelsea, and we saw it with Inter. So we saw it with like a bunch of different teams. The guy loves winning leagues, and I think that's what he's gonna focus on for
yeah.
Yeah.
with
He'll
Spurs.
probably rotate. Yeah, he'll probably rotate his
Yeah,
team quite a
yeah,
bit.
yeah. So my prediction is a 1-1 for that one.
Oh, that's a good one, Andre.
I think it's a draw, but I think it's going to be match of the week for me. I think both teams have a lot of attacking power. I think it's going to be a high scoring affair. I'm going to go 3-3 on that one. It's going to be
Ooh,
banger after banger.
Who's scoring?
And by the way, I thank you for asking. I was going to say, let me read you the Marseille lineup because there's a lot of really good players that people don't really talk about. Like, for
yep.
example, Alexis Sanchez, who's had kind of a resurgence lately. You still got Payet, which he's 35, but he can still ball.
He makes them tick too. Payet
That's
makes
what I'm
that team
saying. The
tick.
tempo that he adds to it. A player that you know very well, Alina, Cengiz Under from Roma. That
Oh
guy,
yeah, he's an
he is
exciting player.
he's like lightning fast. He's very quick.
Yeah.
I like him a lot. So I would say those three are on the score sheet for me. But even if you look down at the team, I mean, there's a couple of former Arsenal players. We're talking about this offline. I mean, Nuno Tavares,
Tavares. Mm-hmm.
Kolanishuk is there. Paul Lopez is a keeper. I mean, Eric Bailly is at Marseille. Like they have a
Eric
fucking
Bailly's at
team.
Marseille. Yeah, yeah. And Tavares is scoring
So
goals too to top it off.
yeah, Matteo Guendouzi. I mean, dude, I'm telling you, Marseille is going to be the dark horse for me in Europe all around. 3-3. What about you?
I think if it's happening. It's happening in England. So I think they rotate. I think I like the. I want to give a hot take here. If I'm being fucking real, because I've lost every hot take so far on the show. If I'm being fucking for real, I like 2-2. I think the 3 goals
Oh,
is a lot for me, but
right.
I like a draw 2-2. I think it's fair. I think Tottenham rotates so much that they're going to let goals in. They're going to concede. I think it's going to be
Yep.
hard to keep them off the score sheet. At home. And as far as like who we're maybe to open up goals, I'm expecting hopefully Richarlison to play more. Richarlison and Kulusevski maybe to play more roles, and maybe Richarlison to even own the striker role. Maybe they sit Harry Kane just to kind of give some rotation and prioritize the league. Like Alina said, I agree wholeheartedly. I think Conte cares way more about the domestic league than anything else.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. Maybe Lucas Moura comes into play and offers some respite there. I don't know. I think 2-2 is fair. But I think that Conte is going to wish that he prioritized Marseille a little bit more. I think I agree wholeheartedly with Andre. I think Marseille is going to be surprising a lot of people in the
Underrated.
Champions League this season. So we'll see. Some banger games this week. And look, that's pretty much our episode for today, guys. I think we had a ton of great conversation. And look, in terms of conversation and what we're going to be talking about next time, I want to offer a quick teaser here. Box to Box is getting its first guest. I'm so pumped for it. I think we're going to have a great conversation. We're going to offer some unique takes right outside of just us three that we get every week. We're going to be bringing in Christian XC7, a quickly growing Twitch streamer. Maybe we can, get a little shit talk between him and Alina. We'll see. Alina's competitive as hell. I know she is. But look, we're definitely going to tease, as far as some of that discussion, talk everything from quick hits and global results, some of Christian's, favorite picks when it comes to things like football, anything cultural, internet memes as a whole, who knows? But look, I'm super excited to have our first guest on. And moving forward, guys, in September through, I would say, the World Cup, we're expecting to have a guest maybe every week or every 2 weeks. So a ton of interesting takes on the show. Andre and Alina will continue to be on it as normal. So we'll definitely have kind of this 4-pronged approach to box moving forward. But guys, this was a great episode. Christian will be on next time, and we'll be able to offer our viewers a ton more value from that perspective. But until then, thank you again for watching, guys. Really appreciate it. This was Box to Box, and look, I've said it before, I'll say it again. You can find Box to Box on YouTube. Kind of follow the description below. Our link to our channels there. Like, subscribe, and then most importantly, we are a show that's brought to you by GOLZtv. GOLZtv coming in mid to late September. We are launching a platform that will house nothing but free to consume 24/7 football content. It's going to be everything from Twitch to Twitch content and gaming content to match highlights to podcasts just like this one to jersey culture to cleat culture, you name it. It's all going to be in one place for you guys. Super excited about that as well. But until next time, I'm Jose. These are Andre and Alina. We really appreciate it. We'll see you guys soon. Take care.